The First Omen, directed by Akira Stevenson, is the newest Omen movie. It's a prequel to the original Omen. It's a movie that's been on my radar for a while now, since January. Actually, I saw a trailer for it when I went to see American Fiction and was hooked right away. That was an amazing trailer. They really got me with that. That's a good on the marketing team for that one. But yeah, it immediately hooked me. It seemed very off the wall. It seemed very batshit, and I absolutely was totally on board for that. And I didn't even realize it was an Omen prequel until I actually researched the movie a little bit more. It really didn't have legacy sequel written on it at all, which is, if you've been keeping track with my reviews of recent legacy sequels. We've got Exorcist Believer and the new Halloween movies. They're not great. For as much fun as I have with them because they're so stupid, I don't think they're very good movies at all. This one, however, seemed like it was primed to at least be something interesting. And then we got Immaculate a couple of weeks ago, which I also reviewed and liked a decent amount. That movie made this movie kind of interesting because it's basically the same film. It's one of those instances where two movies come out in pretty rapid succession of one another. They're very obviously not ripping each other off because they were made in almost the exact same time frame, so there's no way they could have ripped each other off. But it's peculiar how similar these movies are in terms of plot. However, the main difference being that I like the First Omen a lot more than I liked Immaculate. I liked Immaculate, but the First Omen kind of puts it to shame. So this movie delivered on exactly what it needed to be. I think I'm holding strong in my opinion that 2024 is going to be the year of horror because we have just gotten consistently great horror and new horror that has kind of not reshaped the genre, but this feels like a something that should have it's been building for a couple of years. And the First Omen really, I think what makes it so great is that it detaches itself from legacy characters. It detaches itself from being really a part of a larger storyline until the very end. And I think that this movie has a clear focus and has a clear vision throughout it that pushes it above the rest of these shitty, old franchise movies. One thing I really want to talk about is the 70s aesthetic of the film. I think it really works. I think the setting really works, setting it in 70s Italy when you have a lot of civil unrest and pushing back at the church. I think that adds a really cool backdrop to it. I think the cathedral that this movie is set in is pretty cool. I think it is a very ominous environment. You have a really great lead performance. I'm not aware of the actress's name. I'm very sorry for that. But she was fantastic. I thought she really carried a lot of the movie on her shoulders and did very excellently with each of the different beats that she was going through. I think that the guy who was the dad in The Witch, who I also don't remember his name, he was fantastic. I love him in everything he's in. I love his voice, and I think he's always great for horror like this. But the main focus of why I loved The First Omen so much was how actually scary it was, how much it got underneath your skin, and how well it built to those scares. I think that something like Immaculate kind of used cheap jump scares at first to kind of like let you know this is a horror movie. This movie isn't afraid to kind of take its time. It wasn't afraid to build tension. It wasn't afraid to, make you sit with the character and the world that this character inhabits before it thrusts you into the demonic stuff and the real horror of it. And when it gets there, it is genuinely so unsettling, and it's so creative and visually pleasing. It's all fantastic. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to, obviously spoil anything for you guys, but there are certain scenes that really, I was like, oh, okay, oh. and the movie goes for it. And I really did love that. Like I said, all the performances were fantastic. I think another big strength of this is Akira Stevenson. I think I'm saying is Akira. I'm not 100% sure how to say her name, but the director of this film, she has such a clear voice and such a unique style that it comes across in almost every single sequence. And her thumbprint is all over this movie, and that is not something that you get from larger budget, from big studio horror films. Recent, they're normally cheaply made. They get some rando to direct, and it's usually not. There's not a lot of care put into these movies, and that was evident right off the bat with the First Omen, that there was so much care put into it in every sequence. And I like that it got weird. This movie was not ever afraid to be off the wall. It was never afraid to go that extra mile and just be batshit crazy. And once it got going, once you kind of move past the first 30 minutes or so, the movie is relentless with how much it's trying to scare you. So yeah, this was a exhilarating horror movie with a story that really gets under your skin, way more than a lot of other like religious horror movies. I think that the performances really stand on their own here, and I think that Akira Stevenson has such a clear and vocal voice throughout the movie. Issues I have with it, it is a bit too long. It sits around a little over 2 hours, which I don't think was necessary. I think that this movie could have benefited from being a little bit shorter. There are moments that drag a little bit, and I wish that we got more of a certain creature that we get in this movie. I think there could have been a little more carnage there, but that's kind of nitpicky. Mainly the pacing could be a little off at times. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on The First Omen. I was really excited to see this. I'm going to give it a strong A-. I think that this is definitely one of my favorite movies of the year so far. We're getting a lot of great horror, which is really great to see. And yeah, that is it for this review. I just saw Monkey Man today, so I will be reviewing that shortly as well. And we've got Civil War coming up this week, so stay tuned for that review. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.